We're also here on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. So however you're connected with the show, I thank you so much for being a part of the broadcast this morning. And of course, you can also get us on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt and on wakeupcalldt.com. Plenty of different ways to listen into the show. And thank you so much for everybody that does that every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, where sports meets that thing called life inside of these beautiful and wonderful Cafe Kubal studios. You can go to Cafe Kubal today at multiple different locations, and I implore you to do that. If you're out and about and you got a lot of stuff going on, you could pull right into their newest location, which has a drive-thru, indoor and outdoor seating, and the first ever drive-thru for Cafe Kubal. You can find that on Sweetheart Corners on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road in North Syracuse. You can also find them at 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 208 North Townsend Street, as well as 401 South Salina Street. You can find Cafe Kubal, and you can also find them inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital and out in Manlius at 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York. So plenty of different ways to connect with Cafe Kubal and support local, which we appreciate everybody doing that, supporting your local companies here in Central and Upstate New York, and the fantastic companies that have those corporate names that have become extremely local, like the Carvel DeWitts, as well as the Honda cities of Liverpool and Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay. So a lot of thanks to everybody in this community that helps to make our community truly special, build up our community, and bring good people together. So I want to thank them all for all that they do. And with that being stated, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, we got plenty of show jam-packed for you today. Those of you that know the broadcast know how we do it here inside of the Cafe Kubal studios on a Friday, is that we have our three signature segments, the annoying moment of the week, as well as lead, learn, evolve, ad-lib, and deliver. And so the annoying moment of the week brought to you by Carvel DeWitt, lead featuring Juanita Ward and myself, brought to you by Chick-fil-A Cicero, and the Top Dog of the Week announcement brought to you by Canine Camp Dog Daycare and Canine Kampground Dog Boarding. So a lot of ways to get involved this Friday and every Friday with our three signature segments, having some fun. The annoying moment, lead, and top dog, always starting off the show 9, 9:30, and 10 a.m. Eastern Time, respectively. And we'll round out today's show with Dave Pasiak, who will be joining us at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. He's joined us pretty much weekly throughout the NBA playoffs, as he is a longtime basketball coach and mind and an analyst of the game. So he comes to us from the NVU Linden Hornets, and he'll be joining us today to speak on not only the NBA playoffs, but the current goings-on of the NBA stories, some things that are worth speaking on and talking about this morning. So a lot of great stuff coming up from Dave Pasiak, and excited to have him in hour number 2. So with that being stated, we proudly start things off here with the annoying moment of the week, proudly presented by Carvel DeWitt. Carvel DeWitt is the home of the wake-up call creation, the Orange Dream. You could go there and get my spin on an orange creamsicle in sundae and shake form, which has orange sherbet, vanilla ice cream, and rainbow sprinkles, whipped cream, and a cherry. You can eat it like a sundae or drink it like a milkshake. And of course, it's orange for the beautiful orange color that we find here in our community that so many people care about so much in the sports world, the orange. And of course, it is very, very refreshing and good all year round. So make sure you go out and get it today, exclusively on site at 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. It is what happy tastes like. So, with that being stated, let's hop into the annoying moment of the week.
Dan Tortora proudly brings you...
Is that for real? Are you kidding me?
The annoying moment of the week.
I really honestly, I don't know how to respond to this.
Presented by Carvel DeWitt, 4322 East Genesee Street. It's what happy tastes like.
You have to be that crazy. I guess so.
The annoying moment of the week here inside of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, proudly brought to you by Carvel DeWitt. the annoying moment of the week this week, there's two of them, and I knew one of them at the beginning of the week. That's when the week starts off and I'm like, oh, okay, that's the annoying moment. There we go. So, making it pretty easy for me. We'll get to that one in a second, but my little brothers are in town, Miguel and Nico, and so Miguel helped me this morning with one of his annoying moments of the week, which kind of was going off of something that I was going to say. Anyways, and that is, it's traffic. I mean, obviously, who likes traffic? But, the reality of sometimes why there is traffic, and I think that this is very frustrating. I don't know if I'll ever forget driving to Marywood with my dad, and when we were driving to Marywood University, obviously my alma mater, when we were driving there, we were in traffic for an hour. And I think it was like an hour, maybe like an hour and 10 minutes. We had to get somewhere. And, so we're sitting in the traffic, and it takes a couple hours from Syracuse to get to Scranton. And as we're sitting in this traffic, it's, we keep asking ourselves, what's going on? What's causing the traffic? What is kind of the holdup with everything going on? And so you get to the end of the traffic, right? You get to the end of the line, and you get to see what the traffic is all about, why the construction cones were up. And at the end of it all, I kid you not, I saw no equipment. There was two guys sitting on the rail that stops you from going in, across to the other side. You know how there's rails on both sides that keep you from either going into a ravine or going into the median or crossing over or whatever. So at the end of this all, there's two guys sitting on the rail talking to each other. Traffic for an hour. I think it was probably went into one lane or something at some point. But traffic for an hour on I-81. Two guys at the end of it having a conversation. Now, in Pennsylvania, I feel like that happens more than it doesn't. When there's just people, talking for no reason. Now, God's been good this week, and whenever there was traffic, it was always on the other side of where I was going. And I had no issues whatsoever, and I want to thank God for that. So I don't want to start this thing, talking about traffic and not be thankful for how great traffic was for me this week. But Miguel brought it up because he sat in traffic for 40 minutes. And, it's funny depending on where you are. If you're in Syracuse and you're 22 miles away from something, it's going to take you 20 minutes, 22 minutes to get there. If you're in New York City and you're 22 miles away from something, it'll take you 2 hours to get there. And that is, and it kind of messes with time. And I think as a kid growing up, it kind of throws you off because you don't understand it, right? 22 miles, I'm going, let's say I'm going 60 miles an hour and I got 22 miles to go, right? So in your head, you're going to get there and it's, you're 20 miles away, you're 20 minutes away, or you're, within 20 to 30 minutes away, not 2 hours away. But, everything is relative. In New York City, the traffic is mighty busy, and it's something that, people unfortunately deal with every day. Well, depending on when they go to work and what happens and whatnot. So, that's just kind of the situation. So I got to, obviously Miguel trying to get in here and trying to, be on time and have everything set, and that's the thing too, is sometimes we're not on time and it's us. And sometimes we're not on time because we've done everything we could. I gave myself 3 hours to get somewhere in New York City, almost 3. I get two and a half hours to get 22 miles. And I was cutting it close. So it's one of those things for, sometimes you can, sometimes you're fine. And sometimes you can't do anything about it. Sometimes you honestly can't do anything about it. You give yourself 2.5 hours to go 22 miles, you're not at fault. If you're in New York City and you give yourself a half an hour to go 22 miles, you're probably not going to get there. But everything is relative. So traffic is one of those things, and I think I mentioned it within these last few weeks. But I'm driving with my girlfriend a few days ago, and this car got into the middle lane, realized he needed to be all the way to the left, and instead of And this is in the run of traffic. Like, this is like cars are moving. This is not like at a stoplight or like in stop traffic where they got their blinker on. They stop dead in the middle of the road. Literally stop in the middle of the road to try to go over 2 more lanes. Just stop in the middle lane at a green light, stop their car, and just kind of angle it, waiting to get in the other lanes, holding up everybody else in the normal. And it's not near the light. It's like there's space from the light. So it's not like people think, oh, okay, maybe the light's red. So putting themselves in total danger and everybody around them because they just realized they have to go over. And Teresa brought up a good point. She said, why don't they just go to the next light, make a left-hand turn there, and loop back around instead of risking everybody's life? So when it comes to traffic and it comes to safety, please be smart and understand. I know some people think this way, but it's not true. You're not the only person on the road. It's not only you on the road. So the decisions that you make or don't make could risk the lives of everybody else. So please be safe. My second annoying moment of the week comes to you from getting a new laptop. I'm not going to say the company that I got it from, but when I got this laptop and it came in, I took it out of the box and it snapped. Like it had to like pop into place, and it wasn't popped into place all the way. You know how like when they put it together, it's got to pop into place. It wasn't popped into place all the way. And not only was it not popped into place all the way, but it looked like it was kind of raised up that, you know, like you almost felt like what are you supposed to do? Like, it was like the mouse was kind of angled and then the mouse would stick. And what I found out about this, when they put computers together and whatnot, when you have that mouse that's just not like a normal mouse, not like this, but like a mouse where it's just the pad, you know, it's just like that rectangle and you just click on it, that was sticking. And I was like, okay, you know, I don't know, maybe it's all right, maybe it's fine. And then the computer's overheating, and then the computer's not doing what it's supposed to do, and it's dropping all these frames on YouTube, and it's not working properly, and it's coming up with this blue screen. And granted, I just got this computer. And you pay a lot of money for these computers, right? These computers cost thousands of dollars. And to have to order a new computer after being concerned that the other one wouldn't be fixed, having this one finally come in, and having a bunch of problems with it, and they sent me the wrong cord. Remember, we did the annoying moment of the week about this French cord that only plugs into, like, I don't know, a biscotti maker? You see this thing? What is this thing? This thing makes no logical sense. It's got 3 prongs spaced way apart, and none of them are solid. They're like on one side, and then on the other side, they're flattened out. None of this makes any sense. This cord makes no sense. You know, they ship this to an American address with a foreign object. So I've already had a bunch of issues with this company already, and I don't want to have to send my computer back because I need it for work. But this computer gave me so much trouble getting on the internet, staying on the internet, keeping information coming, working. It didn't register my microphone. I had to go in and change something that I didn't know I had to change. I've had so many, and I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe I could angle it, and maybe I could try to make it work. And I'm like, I paid over $1,000 for this computer. Why am I inconveniencing myself going, well, the mouse will work if I tip it sideways, and this will work if I do this, and I just have to hope that this will work, and maybe if I keep it out of the sun, and maybe if I do... No. So the computer's probably going to have to get fixed. But it's my annoying moment of the week because, number one, I paid a lot of money for the computer. Number two, this computer should be working. There shouldn't be any issues with this computer, and it's new. And, you know, sending it back to a place that sent it to you, because the thing is, when you have a computer and you pick it, and then you have it made to your specifications, right, they have to obviously open it up and put stuff into it. Like, they have to do that. And when I just feel like when they opened it up and put all this stuff in, they didn't put it back together properly. That's what seems like happened, is that it's not put back together. Or else why would the mouse be all weird, and why would certain things be not working? But think about having a computer for a week or two, turning it on and have a blue screen with a frowny face and a glitch on it saying, we've encountered a problem. What's the problem? I barely even touched the computer. I've used it to send emails. I went on the internet, you know, so it's just beyond me that something like this would be happening right now, but... just so, you know, and the thing is, it's hard to get certain computers, right? Stuff is sold out, And I think these computer companies are like, oh, well, everybody's home, so we can charge more. It cost me $200 more to get the computer that I had before with a screen that's a little bit smaller. So I don't like people that are, that use a pandemic to make more money off of people who, we all at some point lost money in this pandemic. Even if it was a few dollars, somebody lost something, right? People lost their jobs and different things. So to capitalize in a pandemic and then to send me a product that doesn't work properly after asking me to spend more money for the product than I believe it's actually worth is unacceptable, which has brought me to the annoying moment of the week. Proudly brought to you by Carvel DeWitt on 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. It is what happy tastes like. So, hopefully traffic is better for you. Hopefully it's better for me and for all of us. And hopefully people don't stop in the middle of the road for no reason and hold you up. And when you order a computer, or literally anything, hopefully that does what it's supposed to do and makes it worth the money that you spent on it, because it's a very unfortunate thing to bring something home after not having it for a while, be happy that you finally have it, and then go to use it and have it not work properly. So, nobody should have to go through that. These companies should know better. It's their job to do things right, and they're always quick to charge us when they think, we did something wrong, or we did this, or we did that. But when we expect them to do their job, they need to do their job. And if your job is to build computers, then you need to build them correctly. It's not like I went to a chicken coop asking them to, sell me 3 chickens and make my computer work. So the reality of it all is you have your job and you need to do it. And when one of my other computers, when it stopped working, you know what the lady told me? She goes, oh, you probably got one of those computers from a guy who, he was probably working on it, and he's looking at the thing, and it's 5 o'clock on a Friday, and he just wants to go home. And so you probably got the computer with someone who, rushed putting it in and probably didn't, put everything in correctly because he just wanted to go home. And I was like, say that back to yourself. You might be able to get away with that, at a cheap restaurant, right? That you didn't put all the toast on the plate. But to tell me that there's a guy that is looking at the clock on Friday and it's 5 o'clock and he doesn't put my computer together correctly because he just wants to go home? Yeah, no. So, but that's what, and literally somebody said that to me that was working in the computer section of a store. She goes, oh, you probably got one of those computers where the person just, didn't want to work on it, and you just got one of the busted ones and you didn't know until you knew. I'm like, well, that's fantastic. Are you guys going to give me another computer? And, monitor the guy that's trying to, get home to go to, his all-night buffet, but he needs to wait 5 minutes. So it's incredible that somebody could literally look me in the eye and say that to me. Oh, you probably got the computer where the guy was trying to put the motherboard together and just, wanted to go home from work on Friday. Yeah, that's unacceptable, especially in a job with a computer, because you open up a computer, you see a lot of stuff inside of it. It's very confusing. So my computer will get fixed. I believe in that, and I hope that they'll do right by me, because I deserve a credit or something. I'm not looking for a handout, but I'm also not looking for a computer that I've had for a couple weeks that doesn't work properly. So, with that being said, that is the annoying moment of the week. 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. Head out to Carvel DeWitt today to cool yourself down with the Orange Dream, exclusively on-site, on location there. Brought to you by Wake Up Call, the Orange Dream in shake and sundae form. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, we'll have you all set and ready to go with Lead, Learn, Evolve, Ad-Lib, and Deliver, featuring Juanita Ward here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora this morning. We appreciate you being here, and thank you so much for all that you do to be here with us every single Monday through Friday.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. Happy to be here with you inside of the Cafe Cabal studios. You're watching on facebook.com/livenowdt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. It's time to get into Lead, Learn, Evolve, Adlib, and Deliver, proudly presented by Chick-fil-A Cicero. And we have Juanita Ward, my co-host, here today to speak on the blessing the grandparents truly are. Right after my grandmother's Remembrance Day, which was yesterday, I call it the G-Mama Celebration Day. It's the day she passed away, June 24th, but she would never want me to be sad. She'd never want any of us to be sad. She'd want us to celebrate her life, so that's exactly what we're doing. And Juanita talks about how close she is with her grandmother that's returned to heaven, and how close I am with my G-Mama that's returned to heaven. So I thought today, the day after my grandmother is remembered for her incredible life, that we honor our grandparents. So with that being said, I bring in Juanita. Juanita, how are we doing?
Hey, Dan, how's it going?
It's going very well. And Juanita, I kind of just, want to jump right into it. I mean, you talk about your grandma all the time. I talk about G-Mama all the time. And, on the day that she passed, which was yesterday, June 24th, a few years back, I just decided it wasn't going to be a sad day, a down day. It was going to be a celebratory day, a happy day, a day to, really appreciate and remember her, and maybe reignite if I forgot anything, or if I needed to, kind of remember some of those beautiful teachings that she had. So just to speak on the importance of grandparents, and to remember them, not that they passed on and were sad, but that they returned back home. And I felt like this was a perfect time to do it, because, yesterday was the day that I remembered her.
Yeah, I think it's such an important, important topic, because both of us, we absolutely adore our grandmothers, and it's a blessing to have had my grandmother here on this earth for as many years as she was. I'm always reminded when the doctors told her that she wasn't going to that she was only going to live a certain amount of time. God stepped in and said, "Not so. She's going to live until I get ready to take her home." And she had Alzheimer's, and so the doctors had told her that, she's only going to live until, maybe 5 more years or 4 more years, because of how the Alzheimer's is affecting her body. And my grandmother lived, at this time when the doctor said that, she was, I think she was about 72. And my family is a praying family, and we believe 100% in the healing power of Jesus Christ. And so immediately everyone, started to believe and pray for my grandmother, and she lived to be 98. And it's just a blessing to know what she has done, and what she has stood for while on this earth, and how she's instilled so much knowledge and understanding, and wisdom inside of us to the point where it's like every day we can speak like her, talk like her, act like her, walk like her, move like her. And I'm so grateful I got the name just like her. So, so I think that's a blessing within itself. The importance of grandparents is truly about the wisdom and the experience. You gain so much from them. You gain a lot. And to the ones that never had an opportunity to meet their grandparents, I was one that never had an opportunity to meet my grandfather, but I heard the stories of, who they were, who he was. And, I lived through my grandmother, of my remembrance of my grandfather. It's important to hold fast to those memories. It's important to understand the wisdom and the experience that comes from them. The knowledge that they've gained. You can look at your family and see the roots of your grandparents and what they stood for. And it's a true blessing and a true honor to be able to celebrate and just, always have remembrance of my grandmother and what she believed and what she stood for. Not just in a time of me becoming a woman, but in the time whereas she had to deal with, diversity. She had to deal with understanding, whites had to sit here, blacks had to sit here. She's white and Indian. And so, and then she married a black guy, a black and Indian guy. And for us, understanding the dynamics and the diversity of just loving people in general, my grandmother really spoke about that. And she was so passionate about us understanding the true definition of love and what it means to love people from the eyes of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and having that connection and having that love and having that bond and like you said, loving people from the eyes of Jesus Christ, that's everything that my grandmother, has always been to me as well. And I always speak about my grandmother in the present tense. I don't say she was a great woman, she did this or she did whatever that. I always talk about her in the present tense, and I think some people that don't get it, they think like, oh, he hasn't grieved yet, or he's not over it, or he's delusional. It's like, no, my grandmother was brought to life by God. She's now back at home in heaven, living in that life. So to me, she's not gone. She's not dead. She can't die. Dying you destroyed our death, rising you restored our life. And so, thanks to what we believe in, Juanita, and, believing in God and believing in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, to me, I know she's okay. I know she's safe. I know she's healthy. I know she's well. And it would be, to me, it would be negative to speak about her in the past tense, because she is present. She's present in my life. She's present with Miguel and Nico. She's present with my Aunt Donna and my mom. She's present with people that know her. She's present with people that didn't. She has such an incredible effect on people to this day that the people that didn't know her hear about who she is, and their reaction is so, they're like, it's amazing how people can hear about her for 2 minutes and describe her to a T. Oh, she sounds like this, she sounds like that. Well, that's because she is. And you talk about, our grandparents seeing things through the eyes of God. That's my grandma. Yeah, I would always ask her advice, and she would say something along the lines of, pray to God, keep your nose clean, say your rosary, say your prayers, pray to God, be a good boy, and, and work hard, believe in yourself. And I said this to my cousins and to my girlfriend last night when we were all praying for her. I said something last night that my grandmother said to me, and this was a really unique thing. And Juanita, I know that you and I have a million stories like this. But I went up to my grandma in the kitchen. She was sitting in the chair she normally sat at, which is the chair that my grandfather used to sit in. And she's sitting there, and I went up to her and I said, Grandma, are you behind me? Because she would always tell me she had my back, and she would always say, I'm right behind you, and you can lean on me, but don't fall back too hard. Don't come back too hard. I'm little. I can't hold you up, so don't. She said, I'll hold you as best I can, but don't fall back too hard. And I asked her one day, I said, Grandma, are you behind me? And she closed her eyes, and she put her hands by her face, and she shook her head no. And I said, what do you mean? You're always behind me. course you're behind me. Why are you saying you're not behind me? She said, I'm not behind you. She just shook her head no, and I said, why? I said, you're always supposed to push me up. You're always supposed to, keep me up. And she told me she wasn't behind me anymore. It always gets me emotional. I said, what do you mean you're not behind me? She said, I don't need to be. She said, you're strong enough to hold yourself up now. And she said that before she passed away. And it was moments like that that I'll never forget, because she told me she was always behind me, holding me up. And then she said, I'm not behind you anymore because you're strong enough to do it yourself. And it's those grandparents that I really believe should be honored today and every day.
That's such a beautiful story, Dan. And that's memories that we can carry, we can keep with us, to the end. In times of when we need to just feel a touch from our, from love, when we need to feel that touch, you have those memories in your mind, whereas you can feel the words, you can feel the emotions from, the words that were spoken. And like I said, those are some beautiful, beautiful words. I'm always reminded that, God gives us flowers while we're here on this earth. He gives us roses and he gives us diamonds. And sometimes you really can't see the defining moments of those roses and of those diamonds. You really can't see what it really, really means. You see a glimpse of it and you're like, man, I want this for forever. But when they're gone, you're like, man, I need this for forever. I need what was inside of that for forever. I need a little bit of that love. I need a little bit of that care. I need a little bit of that passion. I need that, and you start to begin to say, okay, well, will I be half the person that, my grandmother was to myself and to others? And you start to think about, God, if you can just give me the wisdom that you imparted into my grandmother, if you can give me half of it, or if you can give me a little bit of it, I will be satisfied. Because it seemed like every single time I would go and talk to my grandmother, she had an answer. She had a wise answer to give. And it wasn't an answer that would make me upset or make me feel some type of way. It was an answer that was crisp, straight to the point, and it had a bunch of nutrients and food in it. The thing that I want everyone to understand about this celebration and about this topic is it's very important to keep wise words. It's very important to hold fast to love. It's very important to hold fast to care. It's very important. If you didn't have a grandmother, you didn't have a grandfather, there was someone else that God sent in your pathway that you could have said, or you will be able to say, that someone that's coming, that you'll be able to say, what's up, Grandma? What's up, Grandpa? What's up, Pops? What's up, Ma? You'll be able to say that because you'll have that sense and that feel that this person cares for you like none other. You have a feeling inside of you like none other. And that's what my grandmother was to so many people, not just people here in the States, but she had so many adopted kids overseas that, it was amazing. I would go into her room and she would have this table of all these kids that she was, sending money to and sending food to overseas. And she would pray for all of them. It's the love and the care and the wisdom and the sound knowledge that she was giving each and every day. Did she have some bad days? I'm sure she did. Did she have a lot of good days? I'm sure she did. But the thing that I carry and I hold fast to, that we should all carry and hold fast to, is even in the good days, even in the bad days, always continue to share the love. Always continue to keep your head up high. Because when you hold your head down, you can't see what's in front of you. And my grandmother was so key on never looking down at a situation. Always keep your head above the situation, because your knowledge doesn't come from the ground up. Your knowledge comes from high to low. God gives that knowledge. God gives that wisdom. He gives the understanding. And my grandmother was a key factor in allowing us to see and believe that love is real, to see and believe that God is real through his actions on keeping her here years later after the doctors told her that she wasn't going to live past a certain age. Prayer is so important. Love is so important. Becoming wiser, praying for wisdom, praying for understanding is so important. And my grandmother always would say, God is good. And if I can leave if I can leave us and leave our listeners with one thing, don't ever forget this. God is good.
That coming from Juanita Ward. Juanita, I know you got a lot going on and a lot of great news hopefully coming up soon. So I know you got to jump off, and I'll continue the conversation on grandparents. But thank you for everything as always. And, you know it, but I love you, sis, and I appreciate you being a part of my family.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I love you back.
All right, I'll talk to you soon. Take care. That coming from Juanita Ward here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora this morning, as I know that she's got some good stuff going on, a lot of great stuff going on, Miss Juanita Ward. So hoping the best for her and everything going on here. So, but yeah, I mean, to continue the conversation, there are so many great things that G-Mama imparted on me, gave to me, and Nico and Miguel call her Gammy. I call her G-Mama, G-Mama. And, my mom and my aunt call her Mom. And other people called her Marie or Miss Marie, Mrs. Covino, Grandma. Other people called her Grandma as well, and rightly so. So to a lot of people, or Dan's grandma, as some of my friends, but, a lot of people came to know G-Mama. And they're still getting to know her. And the thing that's beautiful is after all these years, when I tell those stories of her saying, I'm not behind you anymore because I don't have to be, or you're strong enough to hold yourself up. To have those stories, to have, when she would kiss my nose and I still remember what it smelled like. I still remember, like the smell of her kiss and how it felt on my nose. And, I got to live with her for a couple years. And I always say she's the best roommate I ever had. And, we got to eat together and play together. We always played war. And I remember on her 100th birthday, everybody was asking her, Ma, do you want to go to bed? Are you tired? The aide was there. Aunt Donna was there. My mom was there. And everybody was kind of like, are you tired? Are you sleepy? Do you want to go to bed? Dan, don't keep her up. And we were playing war, which is a game we played ever since I was a little kid. And she said, why am I tired? Like, do I have to be tired? I'm not tired. And she wanted to stay up and she wanted to keep playing. And we ended up playing that night until around 10:30. I said I wasn't leaving that table till she was done. And I believe that's the last time we ever played war against one another. And I want to tell everybody this, and some people know this and have felt this before, and maybe you will feel this coming up. When I used to play war with her, and I'm 30 years old or whatever, when I used to play war with her, I would picture myself being a little kid because I had played with her since I was little, like very little. She taught me how to play. From when I would stand on the, stand up and stand on the chair and have my hands on the table. And I would picture that kid every time I sat there because she sat in the exact same spot and I sat in the exact same spot. And we would play war. And so I always picture myself as an adult back as a kid, remembering that no matter how many years passed by, we always played war with each other. We always sat in the parlor with each other. We always had Christmas Day with her. She always made stuffed shells. I always went to her pool to swim and nowhere else in Syracuse, pretty much. All of my memories with her are these beautiful lessons and positivity and love. And as Teresa said last night when we were praying, she said, because of her, you have your mom and your Aunt Donna. And through that, inadvertently, she brings about you and Nico and Miguel. And whoever else comes from here. She has been a leader of our family, and she still is. And I think that if my Aunt Donna's having a tough day, or I'm having a tough day, or Nico, Miguel, or my mom, or whoever, to reach back to her words, keep your nose clean, which meant, don't do bad things. Be a good boy, self-explanatory. So be good. Pray to God. Say your prayers. Just to be a good person. To always be a good person. I asked her one time when she was watching the news. And of course, the first 5-10 minutes of the news, 15 minutes of the news was all negative. There was 3 murders. There was an arson. There was, probably a lost kid and all this stuff going on. And I said, Grandma, how can you watch this and stay positive? How can you see all of this bad news and all of this destruction and all of this sin and still be happy? And she looked at me and she said, what's my alternative? That's who she always was to me and always will be and is to me now, is a positive voice, a positive person. Somebody who the world threw a bunch of negativity at, and what was her response? What's my alternative of being happy? I didn't know I had another choice. She wasn't concerned with the alternative. It was be happy or be happy. She was the youngest of 3 girls, my Aunt Meg and my Aunt Dorothy, who are both up in heaven, God willing, and God bless to them too. And so she's the youngest of the 3 girls, and after my great grandma had her that I never got to meet, she passed away. My great grandma had my grandma, her 3rd child, and that was it. And she passed away when my grandma was very, very young. So she taught herself how to be a woman. She taught herself how to go to church and stay at church, how to pray to God and love God and say her rosary. She taught herself how to be a mother when her mother wasn't there. So that's something that I take very seriously when people say, I don't know how to be a mom, I don't have a mom, or I don't know how to be a dad, I don't have a dad. So they scapegoat it, right? Like, I had nobody to raise me, so that's why I'm an animal. I do bad things to people because there was nobody here to tell me not to. My grandma had my Grandpa Louie, but she helped take care of that house and take care of her sisters, and she was the youngest. But she was always a caregiver. She was always caring and always older than she had to be, I'm sure. This woman taught herself how to be a mother and a grandmother without having her mother there to teach her any of it. She is the epitome, she is the example, she is the reality that there are no excuses in life that hold. You either decide to be something or you don't. And she decided to be a good mother. She decided to learn how. She decided to be a good grandmother, and she decided to learn how. She decided to spend time with me that was always valuable, and she decided to learn how. And our relationship as she got older only got better. It was never non-existent. It was always present, but it only got better. And even with her Alzheimer's and everything going on, she never forgot who I was. She always knew me. She always loved me. She always gave me everything she could. Whether it was food or money, like bringing me to the store, buying me, a pack of cards or something, giving me knowledge and wisdom. My grandmother always gave me everything she possibly could. She is an example to me that everybody deserves your best day every day. And granted, listen, I know we're going to be stressed. I know we're going to be sad. I know we're going to be anxious. I know some of us get depressed. Some of us get down. I understand that we get angry. I understand we're tired. I understand that that's all true. But my grandmother powered through that. Outside of her falling asleep, I never knew if she was tired. I could wake her up in the middle of the night and ask her for advice, and she would give it to you. She never stopped caring. And I feel like I got her best day. Mostly, I feel like I got her best day. It didn't matter what was going on in her life. It didn't matter if her hip hurt. It didn't matter if her back hurt. It didn't matter if she, couldn't remember something. This is a woman who really the only time she yelled at me in my life growing up was when she was mad that there was a bunch of commotion in the house and she took it out on me. And then we talked about it for 10 or 15 minutes and she apologized and she kissed me on the forehead and that was it. She always knew what to say. And she always wanted to help. I remember one night I told her something that was really bothering me and it hurt. And I remember telling her about something that was really bothering me and it was on my heart and it was stressing me out and it was on my mind. And at midnight, when I was living with her, at midnight she comes down to the room I'm staying in and the door flies open and she looks right at me and she says, I can't do this. I can't go to sleep. I can't deal with this. I'm not okay with what's happening to you. And she sat next to me on the bed trying to figure out a solution because she couldn't go to sleep knowing that I was in pain. No matter what was going on in her life, she always cared about everybody else. She knew the boys and Aunt Donna were coming. There were stuffed shells on the table at 9:08 p.m. 40 stuffed shells, a feast. 40 stuffed shells, sausage, meatballs, ready to go. Because the moment that they got in, she would say, they've had a long travel, they're probably tired. They did not walk in without food on the table. She loved to run the house. She loved to set up things. She loved to put things together. And she was always independent because she had to be, because she didn't have a mom. So my grandmother learned how to be independent from the beginning. And I think what was hard for her as she got older was that she had to give that up. She had to give up her independence. She needed help. And I said that the day that she felt like she had no control whatsoever anymore is the day that she'd probably go. And she came home from the hospital, and they had to bring her in a medical bed and bring her in oxygen. And when it was that she couldn't breathe on her own and she had to have a special bed and all this stuff, that was when she decided to leave. And I said it to my mom. I go, I always believed that she would go when she didn't have 1 ounce of independence left. Because even with dementia and everything she had going on, she always kept her independence to some extent. And when it was, she needs all of these machines and this, like she's going to need, not all these machines, but that she's going to need all this help, she decided to go. And I believe God, in a very rare place with a person, God let her get home and let her choose, okay, I'm ready to go. He made that decision and let her be comforted in it. And when I came in that day after she had passed, I looked at her and I kissed her forehead and I smirked and I whispered in her ear, I'm kissing your body, but I know you're not here anymore. I know you shot straight up. I know you did. There's no human being more deserving of heaven than her that I've ever met. So, when you have your grandparents alive, I had the opportunity this week to be around Teresa's family, and Grandpa Frank and Grandpa Sal and Grandma Joyce, they're all alive. And she had a Grandma Marie too, ironically. And she passed away recently, Grandpa Frank's wife, and God bless her in heaven. But to be in a room where there's 3 out of 4 grandparents, I felt like I was a kid again. I felt like I was like 8 years old again. Well, in my case, 6 or younger, because my grandfather's passed away when I was 6. But I haven't been in a room like that in forever. And Teresa said it. She goes, do you think that I don't know how beautiful this is? How at my age I have all my grandparents here. You know, how I appreciate this and know that this is rare. And I got to sit with them all. I sat with Grandpa Sal, went over to Grandma Joyce, sat with Grandpa Frank. And my best advice that I would tell any single one of you is if you have a grandparent who's alive, call them today. Hug them. Give them a kiss. If you're not physically there, FaceTime them. Make a plan to go see them. Don't have them pass away with you saying, I wish I would have, I wish I did this, I should have done that, I would have done that. Do it now. Hug them and kiss them, go out the door, run back in the door, run over and kiss them again. I was notorious for shutting my grandma's kitchen door, going out to the front, and then running back in and giving her another kiss on her cheek and telling her I love her and giving her a hug. To the point where she would go, oh, just go. Because how many times are you going to kiss me? And I just couldn't. When I feel something in my gut, I do it. So call your grandparents. Tell them you love them. If you don't have a relationship, create one. Yeah, right? If they're good people, I'm not saying like create a relationship with somebody who's like bad or abusive. I'm not saying that because I know every family's different. But if you have grandparents that are loving and caring and they just want to hear from you, create your relationship with them. Learn about who they are. Learn about the times that they came from, what matters to them, how they built up their life. Learn from them. Grow from them. Evolve from them. Take the wisdom, take the knowledge. You may think it's useless information, and when your grandparent has dementia or Alzheimer's and they repeat themselves 100 times, you may get frustrated. But when my grandmother would repeat herself 10 times asking me about my day, you know what I thought about? At least she's alive to ask me the question 10 times. I'd rather her be alive to ask me 10 times than not be alive and not ask me at all. Everything is relative. It's how you look at things. The things that may stress you out and piss you off. My grandmother couldn't help the fact that she asked a question more than once. If she could, she wouldn't have. So why be mad at her for something out of her control that when she does come to at times is upset about? So why make her feel bad for something she's already upset about that she has no control over? What she had control over is her love for me, her time she spent with me, and the things she said to me. And dementia or no dementia, that woman would sit in my passenger seat, and she'd turn and look at me, and she'd say, I love you. And I would say, I love you too. And she goes, no. I love you. I love you too, Grandma. And she would say, thank you for taking care of me. Thank you for taking me out. Thank you for taking me out. To the movies, on our dates, to the zoo, to the movies, to get something to eat. She would always say, thank you for taking me out. I love you. And she would hold my hand. Anytime I was driving, if I reached out for her hand, she would hold my hand. And she would hold it until I let go. There is no better example of love than the love that she gave me. And with that being said, I proudly make my grandmother the top dog of the week. Because she deserves it. And in honoring my grandmother as this week's top dog of the week, I know I've said a lot about her already, but she is this week's top dog of the week because she, even physically not here, did something that some families don't do even when their grandparents are here, or their parents, or their siblings, or whatever. She brought us all together. My mom worked very, very hard to give my aunt a very happy birthday. And during coronavirus and everything going on, my mom tried to prepare this. My mom went her first Christmas without, the normal people around that she's used to having besides me. So I was with her, and, but my Aunt Ev and my Aunt Donna and Nico and Miguel weren't here, living in Massachusetts and Vermont, and we were in New York, and Corona and all that stuff. So my mom tried to plan out my aunt's birthday, which is January 3rd. And my aunt didn't come up, everything going on with COVID. And then my mom tried to plan it again, and it didn't work out again. And my mom planned it again. And on my grandmother's Remembrance Day, on her celebration day, June 24th, the day that she passed away, my mom said, okay, I'm going to do this. And she told me about it, and she reached out to my aunt's friends, and those friends reached out to friends for my mom and was able to get my mom all the numbers that she needed. And my mom called Nico and called Miguel and extended out to everybody an invitation. And on my grandmother's celebration day, which also happened to be my Aunt Donna's surprise birthday party, Nico, Miguel, my mom, my Aunt Donna, and I were all in the same room again. No excuses. No worries. Together. That is the power that she has. She brought the whole family together again. Without even having to physically be here. We all broke bread together without her having to physically be here. My grandmother set the table, served the food, and kept us all in the same room without even having to physically be here. So yeah, she's alive. Yeah, she's here. She's never far away. And her love for her kids and her grandkids is ever present and always beautiful. And sitting with Nico and Miguel last night in my house, I said out loud that we have never changed. We have never honestly changed. We've grown. We've gone through stuff. But Nico, Miguel, and I, who I consider more brothers than cousins, and I call them my little brothers, and I actually have a card. I don't even think they know this, but they gave me a card for my birthday a few years back, a Captain America card. And both of them wrote in here about me being their big brother. Nico started off his message to me by saying, "Big brother, I love you." And Miguel said, "I am honestly proud to call you big brother because you are even closer than a cousin to me." And it's my only card that I have here in my studio. Besides like the thank you cards from interns and stuff. Grandma kept us all together and continues to keep us all together. And last night, when we were sitting trying to pick a movie, all in the same room, laughing and joking and staying up together, and even falling asleep and being around each other, I know she was smiling in heaven because her boys were together. And I know that my mom doing what she did for my aunt, that she was happy because her girls were together. My grandmother's greatest happiness and achievement was seeing her loved ones happy, achieving things in their life. Her greatest happiness and her greatest appreciation came from seeing us succeed, seeing us be happy, seeing us be surrounded by good people, and seeing us just close to God, faithful, and being good. And I would gladly take up any minute of my show to talk about her. Because she helped me to believe in myself when I didn't. She helped me to stay focused when I thought I couldn't. She helped me to get through things that I thought I wouldn't. She believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. She held me when I didn't know how to hold myself. That woman from heaven continues to change my life. And I could not be more proud, more thankful, more appreciative that God chose her to be my grandmother. Could have chose anybody else. And somehow I ended up in the bloodline of the greatest person I've ever met. And so to her, to my Pop Covino, my Pop Miller, my Gammy Miller, to my adopted Pop and Grandpa Bill, to all the grandfathers and grandmothers that have made up my life, I want to say thank you. You are our top dogs of the week because you know what it takes to love, and you know how to teach us. You know how to be there for us. You know how to love us. You know how to be good to us when we don't know how to be good to ourselves. You are our top dogs. And you deserve to be celebrated, remembered, and appreciated. I told Teresa and her family this week that I pictured my grandmother going back to heaven. There was a gate. There was white fog and clouds. And on the right of the gate, it was open. And my grandmother was walking, so I was like behind my grandmother, kind of in, what I was seeing, to let you know. So my grandmother's walking toward this, the side of the gate where the gate stopped and it was open. And my grandfather's there, and he's walking to her, and he's looking at her. And he walks toward her, she walks toward him, and he didn't say a word to her. He grabbed her hand up here, put his hand on her waist here, and he danced with her in the clouds right next to the gate. I don't know what time is like in heaven, but he waited almost 30 years to dance with my grandmother. Your patience, Pop, is uncanny, and I appreciate it. We got 100.5 years and 9 days of her physically being here. We have an eternity to celebrate who she is. And knowing my grandmother, she ain't done yet. I love you, G. You are the top dog of the week. Proudly presented by K9 Camp Dog Daycare and K9 Kampground Dog Boarding, which is fitting because the owner, Lorraine, knew my grandmother very well. God bless and much appreciation. We'll take a step aside for a fast break, and we'll be back with Dave Pasiak inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Love those that love you so very much. Be good to your loved ones. Call them, see them, text them, FaceTime them, whatever. Make the effort. Make the memories. Because there's nothing better. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. He kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand butter chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. We appreciate you being here inside of the Cafe Kubal studios every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We thank you for being a part of the show every Monday through Friday and being here, like I said, inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. You can find Cafe Kubal by going to any one of their locations in Central and Upstate New York on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 208 North Townsend Street, 401 South Salina Street, as well as all in Syracuse, as well as inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital. And you can also find them on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York. And, of course, in their newest location, in their first ever drive-through location on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at the Sweetheart Corners right by the airport. And so make sure you make your way over there today to enjoy some Cafe Kubal through their drive-through experience. So, with that being stated, inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', you heard the Annoying Moment of the Week brought to you by Carvel DeWitt. Lead with Juanita Ward brought to you by Chick-fil-A Cicero on the importance of grandparents and the blessing of them, and honoring my G-Mama this week, and as we remember her life and her continued life in heaven and beyond, with the top dog of the week, proudly brought to you by Canine Camp Dog Daycare and Canine Kampground Dog Boarding. With all that being said, we have brought ourselves to the final portion of today's show with Dave Pasiak joining the broadcast once again. Dave coming to us, and I always appreciate having Dave on the show here. Dave, the NVU Linden Hornets men's basketball Division III head coach, and somebody who is a very close friend of mine, someone that I've had on the show really since I returned back to Syracuse, New York, to my hometown to build my company 9 years ago, and a little over 9 years ago. And he's here with us all throughout the NBA playoffs to speak with us on the goings-on of the 2021 NBA playoffs, as well as the NBA news that's currently going on as well throughout the league. So with that being stated, let's bring in the man of this hour, and that will be Mr. Dave Pasiak. So I appreciate him being on the show and hanging out with us. So let's bring him in. Dave, how are we doing?
Good, Dan. How you doing today?
I'm doing very well. And you and I were just talking about this off the air. You know, the fact that it's not always may the best team win. It's may the best team win that'll give us the best ratings. You know, looking at the current NBA playoffs and the way that things are with the Eastern Conference Finals and the Western Conference Finals. You have an LA, but it's not the Lakers. You don't have a Boston. You don't have a New York, or Brooklyn and whatnot. You have these teams that have comprised it that, people talk about the outside looking in and, oh, what about this with, the ratings on TV and do people want to watch this? And it's something that really frustrates me when I hear it because I'm always about may the best team win and the best team needs to win and it's about the best team to want to watch it. Or, if we have this, major league, if the World Series ends up in this city, who's going to want to be? I mean, I heard it with my teams. I heard it with Arizona, the Diamondbacks in the World Series. With Toronto, oh, it's not even a team in America. And now, we see Phoenix and the Clippers. We see Atlanta and Milwaukee. And the question comes up is this good for television? Is this good for ratings? And that conversation always frustrates me because my thing is, did the best teams make it? Well, they beat everybody in front of them, so they are. And so they're the best ones here this year, so let them play through. What are your thoughts when we hear the argument of, well, this probably isn't good for television or this isn't going to be good ratings, almost as if this is some sitcom or, I don't know, CBS drama that's on Thursday nights?
Well, I think it's more a topic of conversation for a combination of like the league and especially the television networks are really the ones that are concerned with that. The networks and by extension the advertisers, because they're trying to get the most eyeballs they can on the product and all that. It's an interesting thing because the NBA's, market size certainly drives professional sports. You hear the same thing, in terms of baseball. The networks would rather see the Yankees or the Red Sox than they would the Devil Rays or the Royals. But I think that, as a fan, you don't get too wrapped up in that. It's more a kind of a discussion for the bean counters and the business types, and like I said, especially the networks and their advertisers or sponsors.
Yeah, and for me, I just want to see good basketball being played. What have you taken away from this? I mean, looking at these last four teams, is this anything that you could have anticipated? Are you shocked, surprised? Did you have some of these sleepers? When we're looking at the four teams remaining, how surprised, not surprised are you in how this shook out, and did you see any of this coming?
Well, we talked early on, and I said I thought if Philly didn't come out of the East, I really thought Milwaukee would over Brooklyn. So I'm not particularly surprised that the Bucks are there. Phoenix, I think, with the Lakers being less than 100%, Phoenix was, they had the second best record in the league. So can't be too surprised there. A little surprised at the Clippers and very, very surprised at the Hawks. Obviously Atlanta's the one that nobody really anticipated being there.
Yeah, and as we see this, move forward in these NBA playoffs, what team disappointed you the most when you look back on it and you look, at first round, or you can even have the play-in tournament to now? What team was kind of the biggest surprise in not the best way? Who was the most disappointing team?
Well, as a Sixers fan, it's the Sixers losing to Atlanta the last round. They gave away huge leads in 2 games and then couldn't close out Game 7 at home. So strictly as a fan, it would be the Sixers, not getting to the conference finals. I think taking off my Sixers hat and just looking at the league, I would say, Brooklyn went all in on the season, and I think losing in the conference semis, their season certainly has to go down as a disappointment. Injuries played a role there. And then the other team that that really has to be disappointed that they're not still playing is Utah. I mean, they were the best team in the league, had the best record in the league, the best home record in the league. And then they couldn't knock off the Clippers after Kawhi Leonard got hurt. So, I would say those, in terms of disappointments, I would say those three: the Sixers, Brooklyn, and Utah.
And not having the two number one seeds remaining. What does that say? I mean, what does it say about this season that Utah in the West and Philly in the East, that we didn't have these number one seeds? The team, like you said, Utah with the best overall record isn't in it anymore. What does it say about this year's NBA that there is no number one seed that's moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's the first time since, I believe, 93-94, Rockets-Knicks in the finals that year. I think it's the first time since 93-94 that neither number one seed has reached the conference finals. So, I think it speaks to a bunch of things. I mean, health and, every year teams staying healthy is really a key ingredient to success and postseason success. But I think it's been magnified this year because of, the quick turnaround after the bubble, the compressed season, the COVID protocols along the way. So I think that has had a way of jumbling the field a little bit. And I also think that, we're kind of at a little bit of a crossroads in the league where you see like teams that are on the rise, like Phoenix, which, you kind of saw that coming in the bubble. Atlanta, you really didn't see that coming even into this season. That team was looking like a lottery team first half of the season. So I think that there's more good players in the league now than there ever have been. And so I think that, what you're seeing is kind of a wider swath of talent, I guess you'd say, in combination with the randomness that, that staying healthy or not staying healthy has introduced.
Yeah, and seeing, that there's difference. I think it's great. I personally like it because I think, it gives us something else to watch. It's not your typical teams. I think it makes it fun. I think it makes it interesting. And I think it, and people could say whatever they want. Well, this because of Corona and this because of that, whatever. Well, you know what? That's great. LeBron can cry himself a river. But the reality of it all to me is every single one of the 30 NBA franchises had to deal with Corona. Nobody more than Toronto. Toronto's got the biggest complaint because they're the only team that didn't get to play at home. They're the only team that couldn't sleep in their own beds. The only team. And so, because of everything in the protocol in Toronto and Canada's been extremely strict with everything from what, I've heard and whatever, and speaking with Leo Routens. So, for me, you can cry and boo-boo and, I'm injured and oh my gosh, but every team had to go through it. It's one thing if like, the Lakers had to go through it and nobody else. Or the Celtics had to go through it and nobody else. Like the Celtics had Corona, but nobody else did. So for Phoenix and the Clippers and the Hawks and Milwaukee, for these four teams that are left, for the Suns, the Clippers, the Hawks, and the Bucks, I don't want to take anything away from them. I don't want to take any. I mean, injuries happen without a pandemic. Injuries happen without a season that's close to another season. Injuries happen when they happen, and that's it. They happen when you're totally healthy and you step on your kid's skateboard. So they happen when you just, I sprained my ankle one time doing like nothing. I just sprained it. It's just whatever way I was walking, I came down, I turned, it's like, it just, sometimes things just happen. I came off of I got pushed off of a tree stump, and my leg went around me, and my ankle was like behind me, and I got up and it just didn't feel right. So, I don't want to take anything away from the Suns or from the Clippers or from the Hawks or from the Bucks by talking about like the teams that are boo-hooing themselves of their injuries and oh my gosh, and I told you so and this is going to happen. Dave, I think these people deserve credit. And I think, again, if this was a league where these four teams were in a bubble and they didn't have to deal with Corona and their practice schedule wasn't different, but if all 30 teams have to practice at the same time and they got to do this and they got to do that and they all have to go through COVID protocol and everybody's getting treated the same, then I don't want to hear any excuses because Phoenix easily could go through injuries. The Clippers have gone through injuries and still won. The Hawks can go through injuries. Milwaukee can go through it. Your best player can go down at any given time for any given reason, even when everything is normal. So that, I think, is a big story that I think we need to kind of key in on. Not a story, but like a statement that I really don't think that these four teams deserve to be told that they're only here because of Corona or scheduling or whatever, because, they had to go through the same thing as everybody else.
Yeah, I agree with you to a large extent. I think COVID obviously affected it. I mean, that's an equal opportunity influencer, I guess. COVID had the same likelihood of affecting any of the teams in the league, really. I think the one place where there is a correlation, if you really look into it, is I think the teams that went really deep in the playoffs last year that had the really short turnaround, it seems that there was a correlation between those teams and not being able to stay healthy versus teams that were early outs or didn't get to the bubble or didn't make it into the playoffs from the bubble. So, I do think that there's a little bit of a correlation there, but I don't think it's the type of thing that should diminish in any way with the teams that are still playing are doing. You bring up a good point with the Clippers. I mean, their best player hasn't played, and they've got a reasonably decent chance of going to the NBA Finals. So, I don't think it diminishes what these teams are doing, but I do think there's a correlation between the teams that played late into the playoffs a year ago and the fact that those teams seem to have been hit amongst the hardest in terms of being able to or not being able to stay healthy.
And in that case, you're talking about the teams that went deeper, that played longer. Obviously, if they played longer, then they got closer to the start of this season, and there's, some wear and tear and fatigue in the normal, kind of get back, then I can understand that. I'm just, I'm saying, and I get that. And in the same case in Phoenix, they did everything they needed to do in the bubble, and they just kept winning and winning and winning, but it wasn't enough at the end of the season. And so I'm happy for them that they're here, because it seemed like, last year, and granted, I mean, obviously they had to do things earlier in the year before the bubble to put themselves in a better situation, so it's on them. But it was almost sad to see Phoenix play as well as they did in the bubble at the Wide World of Sports in Disney and then not make the playoffs. So to see them come and be where they're at right now, that says a lot to me about them and their drive and their determination, because they, tried to go the distance there and didn't get in the playoffs, and here they are in the Final Four. So, I mean, yeah, I think the points that I brought up that obviously I feel very clearly about, and then you bringing up the piece of, okay, the teams that went through the playoffs and the farther that they made it, they were closer to the season, right? If you make it all the way to the end and everybody had, 8 weeks or 12 weeks and you made it to the end, you only had 6, then obviously there's a change to that. And that could affect you. Corona protocol, the same for everybody. Workouts in the start of the season, the same for everybody. But when the season ended last year, not the same for everybody. So I do get that point as an extension of what we're talking about here on the show today. And these are also grown people. It's and so you do the best you can, and they get to sit. They talk about, well, we had to start the season and we went all the way to the end, but your coach is also letting you sit on your butt when you're totally healthy. So, it's kind of like they try to balance it out. Okay, well, you played the last couple weeks of the season, so, we're going to let you sit and relax. So, I mean, in all honesty, it stinks. It was not a great situation. The NBA, all these leagues are doing what they can to make sure that the sport's being played. Yes, they want to make money, but at the same time, these players can't sit here and say, well, the owners just want to make money. They don't care about us. Obviously, I mean, when you play, you make money too. And you're doing the sport that you love, allegedly. So, for me, I wouldn't want to go through COVID, and I wouldn't want to go through all the protocol and be in a bubble and not be able to see my family. And at the same time, if this is the sport I love and I know that I only have 6 years to do it or 10 years to do it, and then I'm going to have to, find something to do with the rest of my life when I'm 35 years old, then, I want to play every day. I want to play as often as I can. And I don't think I'd ever ask my coach for a day off unless it had something to do with my family. I don't think I'd be like, hey, I just want to sit here and do nothing today because, I hurt my pinky toe. So, I mean, I don't, and that's not how I know Jordan or Kamp or Malone or Stockton or Ewing or Houston or literally any of them, or Clyde Drexler or Hakeem Olajuwon. I don't know those players to go, I got a paper cut, I'm not playing today. So, I come from that old school basketball, and if I had the opportunity to play, yeah, it would stink to have the season be so close to another season. But I know that my butt would be out there on the court because I want to win a championship. And if you're one of the very, very tiny, minuscule amount of people that get to play on a basketball team professionally, I don't know anybody in their right mind that would go, you know what, I don't really want to play. So it's hard, it's difficult, and I think, you try to make the best that you possibly can out of the situation, and the NBA gets heralded with making great decisions in COVID, which they did. And at the same time, I want to remind everybody that before the NBA made these decisions, the TBT made the decisions as well, and they really deserve the credit because I think they were the first sport back in a bubble. So, it's good to see basketball leading a charge and trying to get back, and it's great more than anything to see the game being played. And of the 4 teams being left, Dave, who do you think's going to make it? Who do you think? I mean, I told you Phoenix, Philadelphia, and that was kind of something that I rolled with through. And I said that I got to ask the question. I forget what event I was doing, but I got to ask the question, what 2 teams are going to make it? And I said Phoenix and Philly. Phoenix is still alive. Who makes it from these Final 4?
Well, I mean, I still can't see Atlanta beating Milwaukee. But I didn't see Atlanta beating Philly either. So, I still think Milwaukee's going to come out of there and win that series. To me, they're just the better team. Although if Atlanta steals another one tonight, all bets are off. But I think if Milwaukee gets it square tonight, I still think the Bucks win that series. In the West, it's an interesting narrative in the West. I mean, Phoenix should be in the driver's seat and everything, but if the Clippers get it even at 2-2, and then Phoenix for the first time could be in a position where they could be a little tight going back to Phoenix Game 5 and everything. They haven't really faced a tremendous amount of adversity yet in the playoffs. So it would be very interesting to see how Phoenix responds. And the other interesting thing, like the narrative, the Chris Paul narrative, I think could take a hit a little bit because now Phoenix, they go up 2-0 without Chris Paul. If the Clippers come back, level that series, and potentially win that series after Phoenix went up 2-0 without Chris Paul, especially if Leonard doesn't come back for the Clippers, which sounds very doubtful. I think that changes the whole narrative. Like, I think Chris Paul, although he had a great year and everything, I think he's probably been given a little too much credit for Phoenix success this year. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that narrative unfolds if the Clippers extend this thing to 6 or 7 games or even win the series. But, I think that both series, the next game is pivotal. I think if Milwaukee gets even at 1-1, they're going to win the series. And I think if the Clippers get even at 2-2, all of a sudden the pressure for the first time in this playoffs shifts to Phoenix.
Yeah, and I think that, Phoenix with last night with the Clippers winning, and they have another game that they get to play at home before they go back to Phoenix. This is a danger zone for Phoenix because Phoenix has been commanding. Phoenix was the only team to sweep in the second round when they swept the Nuggets. Everybody else had to play through and play a bunch of games. They only had to play 4. So, I think Phoenix, like you said, if this series gets even out 2-2, then for the first time, Phoenix is not in the driver's seat in this playoffs. So they really need to figure it out and handle themselves. They took down the reigning champion Lakers without too much of an issue, and they had no issue against Denver. So if the Clippers create an issue, and I guess this is kind of the storyline here, what do you think about these Clippers? Playoff Paul, people make jokes about Paul George and Pandemic Paul and Playoff Paul and whatever you want to call it, but Paul's been carrying this team. Kawhi's not playing, so Kawhi's been in, but then he's been injured, and so he's out for however long he's going to end up being out. And I think it's one of those situations where it's like, let's not tell anybody how long it's going to be and whatever. But he's not playing. Paul George is. Paul George has been knocked on his ability to do this, that, and the other. Yet the Clippers take down the mighty Utah Jazz, number 1 seed, overall best team in the league record-wise. on the West and East combined of the 30 franchises. They take down Utah. They're now hanging with Phoenix. What is this saying about the LA Clippers that they're going through all of this, and when they hit turmoil, when they hit quicksand, they're not sinking? You know, everybody wants to focus on the LA Lakers, not the LA Clippers. People are still, pissing and moaning about the LA Lakers when the Clippers are in the playoffs right now. What can you say about what they've been able to do and the way that they have handled this season to be without Kawhi Leonard and have an opportunity to tie the series with Phoenix and to just play the way that they're playing? I mean, they don't get a ton from their bench. Morris had 8 in this game last night. Kennard had 9, and Batum had 4. Terrence Mann, who I covered when he was at Florida State, he had 12 as a starter. Paul George led the way with 27. Jackson had 23, and Zubac had 15. Their other starter, Beverly, had 8 points in the game in 27 minutes. What can you say about this Clippers team that takes down the Goliath of Utah Jazz and then just continues to push on? And, I mean, in all honesty, they're never really out of anything. Even when they could have been out against Dallas, they go 7, they win. They could have been out against Utah, and they push them, they win. And now they're trying to give Phoenix hell, and they're doing it without Kawhi Leonard. Is this not one of the best stories that's not getting enough of a spotlight right now?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. No team has ever come back from 0-2 3 times in an NBA playoff. So if they come back and ultimately defeat Phoenix, it'll be something that's never been done before in NBA history. So, I think I've been talking, we've been getting on every week, and I've been talking about Nate McMillan, but I think the other guy that really deserves a ton of credit as a coach is Ty Lue. I think, I think I mentioned this to you a couple of weeks ago. People have different opinions of him as an X&O coach. Personally, I think he's made some really good adjustments from series to series. He's kind of resurrected Zubac this round after kind of totally going away from him against Utah. But I think one thing Ty Lue has shown back when he was in Cleveland and now coaching the Clippers, I think he's got just the ability to kind of keep his team on task and not really press the panic button in the face of adversity, and keep his team rolling in the same direction when things are going sour. And I think that's one thing that Ty Lue has really shown as a coach throughout his career, and maybe doesn't get enough credit for. Because down 0-2 a couple of times, lose your best player. They had every excuse in the world to fold up the shop, but they haven't. And they've continued to tinker and make adjustments. And Paul George, I think, has rehabilitated his postseason reputation a little bit. And I think they've got a great chance to win that series at this point.
Yeah, and we're posting the question today on Twitter and on Facebook. So if you'd like to answer it, go to Twitter at CallDT and follow me there. That's at CALLDT. And if you're on Facebook, it's at Wake Up Call DT. So on Twitter at CallDT, CALLDT, and on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT. The post says, no NBA team has been down 0-2 to start 3 different playoff series and win. If the Clippers do it, they will be the first, as Dave mentioned. Will the Clippers make history and move on to the 2021 NBA Finals? You can answer that question on Twitter at CallDT, on Twitter at CALLDT, and you can answer it on Facebook as well at Wake Up Call DT. So make sure you follow us on Twitter and like the page on Facebook. With that being stated, Dave, in the other look here on the other side of things, we talk about the Hawks and how, nobody anticipated them to be this far. I didn't anticipate them to do what they did to the Knicks and make it look so easy. They're now playing Milwaukee, and Milwaukee is one of those teams that, they were the number 1 seed and Toronto bounced them out. They've been a number 1 seed and they've been sent home. The Miami thing happened last year, so Toronto happens, Miami happens, and this time around they gut it out and they figure it out and they move forward and they take down the Brooklyn Nets, who have a lot to think about here in the offseason. And so here we are with, the Bucks doing what they did, which some people considered impossible, and then the Hawks doing what they did to Philly. which many consider impossible. And they're both sitting here playing up against each other. They're one game in and heading back to Milwaukee for game number 2, as you had mentioned. The Hawks won the first game on the road in Milwaukee by 3 points, 116 to 113. And in that game, we see Capella with 12, Collins with 23, Trae Young with 48 in 41 minutes. And a little bit from the bench, not a lot of bench players playing. 3 out of the 4 of them that played scored. And on the other side, we see Giannis get 34. We see Holiday get 33 as starters, and then off their bench, only 4 played. And Portis, had 11. Connaughton with 4, Forbes with 5, and Teague had none in this game. What's your take of Atlanta, Milwaukee? I know we talked about it a little bit, but Trae Young and just what he's been in this playoffs, and can Giannis do enough? I mean, I think the question every single year is everybody thinks, the Greek Freak is fantastic, but he never seems to help get the team over the hump. Not that he can do it just by himself, but here's Trae Young, just making everybody take a look at Atlanta and take a look at him and really take him seriously. And Giannis is a guy who's gotten a lot of hype. So when we look at Trae Young and Giannis, how do you see these two guys up against each other? And does Trae deserve more hype right now? How do you see it?
Well, I think Trae's getting plenty of hype. I mean, he's become one of the lead stories of the playoffs so far. I think he's been really good. But the other thing that maybe hasn't been talked about enough is Atlanta's got some pretty good offensive players, and they've had some other guys come up big in big moments. I mean, Herter, I think, has been great in the playoffs. I mean, he came up huge for him in Game 7 against Philly. And the other guy, John Collins, I think, has had a tremendous playoffs. And that's one of he's kind of played himself into the discussion about whether the Hawks should offer him a max contract. Which will be an interesting thing. So, and Bogdanovich, before he got dinged up, came up big for them a couple of different games, Lou Williams. So, I mean, Atlanta has got some offensive firepower, and they are playing with a lot of confidence, playing with house money, don't seem to be fazed by the moment at all. I think if they go out this round, the season is a success. If they advance, the season's an even bigger success. I mean, I think Atlanta has positioned themselves not only for this postseason run, but if they can kind of keep that core together and keep adding pieces, I think they're a team certainly on the rise that's going to be in the mix in the NBA, for the foreseeable future. I think on the Milwaukee side, what's interesting is, the last couple of years, Bucks best record in the league, best record in the East, everything, significant expectation based on their regular season, and they came up short in the playoffs both years. I think this year they were a little bit more of an under-the-radar team, 3 seed in the East. Everybody's talking Brooklyn, this team to beat, and Philly's got the best record. Milwaukee wasn't catching very much attention. I think for the first time in the playoffs, we talked about it being the first time Phoenix is facing adversity. But for the first time in the playoffs, the Bucks are facing expectation. The betting line has them as going into the conference finals. They're the favorites to win the NBA championship at this point with the 4 teams left. So I think expectation can be a really heavy burden sometimes, and Milwaukee has not responded well to that in past seasons. So it'd be interesting to see. I still think they're a better team than Atlanta, but Atlanta playing loose and confident. Milwaukee, could tighten up again. The guy that's got to play better for them is Middleton. Didn't have a particularly good game the other night. I mean, they need Giannis, Middleton, and Holiday to all be playing at the top of their game, to match firepower. They're a pretty good defensive team, maybe not quite as good as they've been previous couple of years, but I think Atlanta has enough firepower that, Milwaukee's going to have to be able to score, to score with the Hawks in stretches of the game. That was Philly's downfall, that, Philly, didn't find enough offense to counter what Atlanta was putting out there.
Well, and speaking here with Dave Pasiak, NVU Linden Hornets men's basketball head coach out of Vermont, speaking on the 2021 NBA playoffs, as he's long been a basketball fan, a basketball coach, and a basketball analyst here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Early voting says that the Clippers will make history, and we'll continue to see your votes come in and get your thoughts on that as we continue on through this. But, looking at, kind of, what you said about Atlanta, and if they continue to do what they do, then this is already a good season. If they, go any farther than this, it's a fantastic season. If they win it all, well, then it's like the unthinkable, incredible, amazing season. On the other side of it, you brought up Middleton. I brought him up a couple of years ago, Chris Middleton, when everybody's Giannis, and I'm like, who's this Middleton guy? And, like how he did things against, different teams and really created some amazing moments. And, against Toronto made me a little concerned. And so what can you say about the evolution of Chris Middleton? Because I feel like he wasn't a household name a couple of years ago. And then here he is where, I'm hearing his name and people have expectations of him. How do you think he has evolved in the NBA?
Well, I mean, he is certainly in the Brooklyn series. He kind of upped his stock as a player. He's been like the second wheel in Milwaukee for a little bit now, but he was the guy that they were putting the ball in his hands at the end of games, and he largely delivered in the series against Brooklyn. But the other night, game one against the Hawks, Giannis has a big game, and Middleton had really a subpar game. So I think, I would put him like in that, I don't think he's in the LeBron, KD, Harden, Giannis, Jokic, the elite level of NBA player, Doncic, that level. But I think he's in that next tier of very, very good players. And I think Milwaukee needs him to be very, very good to great, because he's the guy that, he can get hot, create his own shot. They need both him and Drew Holiday, I think, playing near the top of their game to win a championship.
Yeah, and let's stick there for a second. Drew Holiday, I mean, the man was drafted back, 2009, and, the relevancy he has in the Final Four right now, scored 33 in 42 minutes, 14 to 25 from the field, including 5 3-pointers made, had 10 assists in the game to give him a double-double, and had 4 rebounds as well as a couple steals in the game and a block as well. What can you say about Drew Holiday? I mean, this is a guy who, I feel like some people forgot about the name, forgot he was still in the NBA doing his thing, coming out of UCLA. He was the 17th overall pick by the Philadelphia 76ers in the first round back in 2009. What are your thoughts on Drew Holiday being a starter, being relevant, scoring 30-plus, and helping this Bucks team right now?
And too bad he's not still a Sixer, but
yeah.
But anyway, he it's interesting. He had a really big game the other night, and he struggled quite a bit in the Brooklyn series. But I think they also put a heavy defensive load on him in the Brooklyn series. Like, he was one of the guys that was guarding KD on occasion, or he was guarding Harden, Irving early in the series. So, I think he's a guy. He's always been a little bit of a streaky player. Had stretches where he's played extremely well, and then stretches where he's not played particularly well. Throughout his career, he's been a little bit on the inconsistent side, but and he's going to be big in this series with Atlanta. I think you'll see him play young quite a bit. He did the other night, and he's all NBA defensive team player. So he's gonna impact the outcome of this series on both sides of the ball. I think because of the Hawks' firepower, I think they need him to continue to score and be an offensive threat. But I think they're also really going to rely on him to be one of their staunch perimeter defenders.
And we look at Clint Capella for the Hawks, and this is a guy who spent his entire career with the Houston Rockets, drafted by Houston in the first round, 25th overall in 2014. What's your take on what Capella's done for this Hawks team in his first season with the team? 63 starts and 63 games coming into everything here in the playoffs, playing about 30 minutes a game and averaging 15 points a game and 14 rebounds, averaging a double-double of almost 15 and 15. What's your take on the Capella factor with the Atlanta Hawks since coming from Houston?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy, he's become very, very good at playing off of Young. He's a recipient of a lot of the, Trey gets in the lane and he just shoots the floater, or if the help steps up, he throws it up to the rim, and Capella is usually the recipient of that. He's been a great piece for the Hawks. He was in the conversation. Maybe he should have. There were people that felt that he deserved consideration for All NBA center this year. So I think he's a really nice piece that fits well with what Atlanta's doing. In terms of playing off Young, he can be a defensive presence around the basket. Is a guy who can match up. There were times where Embiid had his way with Capella, but there were other times where Capella really competed with Embiid in the Philly series. He, along with Collins, I think is one of the things that really hasn't been talked about very much that's been a key to the Hawks' success is I think they've been really active on the glass and around the basket. And I think it's been primarily Collins and Capella. So, Capella, I think, is in a really good spot that he fits extremely well with what Atlanta's doing.
Yeah, and staying with Atlanta, when we look at, the Luka Doncic, Trae Young, the trade, what your thought was on this? Luka Doncic and what he's been to the Mavericks has been huge. Trae Young, obviously, still in the playoffs here. Going back and looking at that trade and the flip-flopping of hats, who won the trade, and what are your thoughts on, back looking at 2018?
Well, I think so far it's worked out pretty well for both teams. I think both guys have, if you're asking me who I think the better players, who I take first, I'd still take Luka first. But I think, and Luka's, he's emerging as a one of the elite players in the league with Dallas, and I think, Trae Young has certainly had a coming out in this postseason, and I think the thing with him is how is he going to continue to grow and sustain it and keep his play at a high level, because the one thing about Trae Young is he's a little bit can be a little bit erratic, and he's been kind of mercurial to the good in the postseason, but he's had games, a couple in the postseason and from time to time in the regular season where he can be a high turnover guy and questionable shot selection guy and everything. So I think if he continues to grow, he can maintain this level of play on a consistent basis, I think he can put himself in the conversation amongst the elite guards in the NBA. But I think both teams won that trade, because I think at this point, they've both gotten great players that seem to fit well in what the respective teams are doing.
Yeah, and staying with Dallas here, Luka Doncic is going to have a new head coach. Jason Kidd made his hay there wearing number 5 for the Mavericks and really put the Mavericks on the map back in the day. What's your take on Jason Kidd returning to Dallas to be the head coach of the team, if that's truly going to be the way things go?
I'm a little skeptical about that move, honestly. I haven't been a particularly big Jason Kidd fan as a coach. He's had a couple opportunities in the NBA and worn out his welcome / maybe underachieved a little bit in some of the couple of opportunities that he's had. So I don't know. I think obviously when you going into Dallas and coaching a guy like Luka, who's one of the really elite players in the league, much of his success, or a huge amount of his success in Dallas, is going to be tied to is going to be tied to his relationship with Luka and how well he can kind of get a team to play around him. And the other thing is, Luka's up for a Supermax extension, which most people seem to think that he will sign, but there's, at the same time, there's a little bit of upheaval in the Dallas front office. So, keeping Luka happy is going to be pretty important to the Mavericks, because they can't afford for him to not re-up and put himself in on the free market.
Yeah, so we look at everything here as we obviously go on in the Dallas Mavericks thing. You got to keep your superstar comfortable on the team that they're on, and bring in a head coach that's immediately going to either make that better or worse. So big questions coming up for the Dallas Mavericks, Mark Cuban and company. And as we see the Final Four continue on here, there'll be a lot of good conversation to have. Dave will join us next week, as he's joined us weekly, to speak on the playoffs, and we look forward to it as always. Dave from the NVU Linden Hornets Division III men's basketball team, their head coach in Vermont, and of course a longtime analyst and overall lover of basketball on top of being a head coach. So Dave, as always, I appreciate the time. I appreciate the conversations and a look around the NBA. And, we continue to be surprised by what goes on. If for nothing else, I hope it's good basketball. And I look forward to talking with you next week.
Sounds great. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll chat again next week, Dan.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. That coming from Dave Pasiak here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break and wrap up this week right after this inside the Cafe Kubal Studios.
Cafe Kubal Mobile Cafe brings the cafe experience to you. We'll roll out to your neighborhood or office, ready to serve our locally crafted espresso bar to our loyal patrons. Inquire at cafekubal.com. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, located on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, is home to over 40 flavors with more than 200 flavors in their total wheelhouse. Sky's the limit for this sweet and savory Central New York company. Keep it local at your parties, fundraisers, wedding showers, baby showers, and more by calling 315-450-MA-PA. That's 315-450-6272 for popcorn bars with custom flavors and colors at your upcoming event. Make sure to visit them on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And for more information, go to maandpazsnacks.com. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is worth the drive every time. Make sure you make your way out to the Millhouse Market today and download their app on the Google Play or Apple App Store, so you will have everything at your fingertips, including literally everything that you need, from the map to get there from wherever you are. You can plug in your address on the app, and the map will give you directions to get to the Millhouse Market. You'll get an approximate time of when to pick up your food in the drive-thru window. You can pay with contactless pay. You can tip on there and have all the ingredients and all the information on the menu of their salads, quinoa bowls, rice bowls, homemade breads, and as well as desserts and brick oven pizzas and sandwiches named after the families that helped to settle today's Pulaski. Ingrained in our community and ingrained in our taste buds, there is nothing like the Millhouse Market, and that is why I'm so happy they're in Central and Upstate New York, and why it's worth the drive every time. 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, Tuesday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. They're open. Sunday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And when I say open, the general store, the drive-thru, and the indoor dining. And every weekend, the bistro menu changes, so you can go in there and get a new menu every single week. So make sure you head out to the Millhouse Market. Let them know the Wake Up Call sent you to 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, is the proud home of our Liverpool Warriors athletic programs. Right there on site, on location, you can see that show every single month, and you'll find out when that show is by day and time by following us on Twitter at CallDT, Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT, and on Facebook at WakeUpCallDT. Avicoli is there for you Tuesday through Sunday, open for lunch, dinner, and drinks, with 4 different ways to enjoy the restaurant, inside and outside. You can go to Avicoli's pizza side, more casual, their fine dining side, their outdoor dining, and you can also go to their bar. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 to have takeout, delivery, and catering, or go to myavicolis.com for more information. That's myavicollis.com. And veal parmesan marron. So, all the stuff that they have at Avicoli is definitely worth going to your Liverpool neighbor on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York. Canine Kampground Dog Boarding and Canine Camp Dog Daycare, a place to trust your furry-loving friend. There's no other place I would send Lily. There's no other place I have sent Lily. Canine Campground Dog Boarding and Canine Camp Dog Daycare, your home to take care of your little one or your big one. Any size dog, and this is the beauty of it, they make sure that the dogs have a good temperament when they don't just take any dog. They actually make sure that these dogs are good, that they'll play well together, because they want your dog to be safe and they want all the dogs around that dog to be safe as well. They think about you as a family and all the families that trust them. They go so far beyond just giving good customer service. Canine Camp Dog Daycare and Canine Campground Dog Boarding, second to none in East Syracuse, right off of Bridge Street, 228 Old Bridge Street in East Syracuse for the daycare, and for the campground right around the corner at 242 Johnson Street. PB&J's Lunchbox, located on 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York, is that food truck that you've been chasing around Central and Upstate New York, and you can continue to chase them around Central and Upstate New York, but now you can go to them. So when you get the craving, instead of having to simply just look up events that are going on now all year round, you can get to them on the main road, coming right out, right from Onondaga Lake Parkway, from Destiny USA, from the highway, from the thruway, right on that main road, 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. The Street Side Cafe for PB&J's Lunchbox is right there. You can't miss it, right by Sant'Angelo's. Head in there today and get some of your favorites, or try something that could be a favorite. Such an amazing, amazing artistic way of doing food, and that is Pat Orr. She's incredible at what she does, and I want to thank Pat for all the work that she's put forward at PB&J's Lunchbox. You can now go see them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, located right by the water in Skinny Atlas, is your home to be treated as a human being, as a patient whose thoughts and feelings matter. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics doesn't just help you get better, they help you understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and they listen to what you want. And if they can give you multiple avenues, they will give you those choices and tell you the benefits of each. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics listens to their patients. That is something that is truly rare and truly beautiful, and a huge part of what they do. Thank you to Victory for all that they've done with me and all they've done with the community, from preventative care to rehab to physical therapy to surgery itself. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, led by a fantastic team with Dr. Mark Petropoli at the head of all of this. You can call them for an appointment today at 315-685-7544. That's 315-685-7544. Back here inside of these beautiful and wonderful Cafe Kubal Studios, I want to thank you for a fantastic week. We started this week on site, on location, in the backyard where it all began for Steve Marino in a segment called When Dan Meets Marino. Volume 1 and 2 you can watch on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, on Instagram at wakeupcall_DT, and of course you can watch them here on facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and they'll be added to wakeupcalldt.com. So thank you to that. Thank you to Fran, who hers is also available on all of those channels, Facebook, as well as finding it on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, celebrating with my little sis, Fran Tortora, after she and her team of the CNS Girls Lacrosse won their championship, Class A Section 3 championship for girls lacrosse. And so you can go back and watch that fantastic video. Of course, a big thanks to Papa Joe, as well as, a big, thanks all around for everything that we've gotten to do this week. A big thanks to Mike Sofka for doing the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub every single week. And, of course, for the Ingredients to Success, brought to you by Avicoli's, which we got to do with Steve Marino, to the Annoying Moment of the Week, presented by Carvel DeWitt, Lead with Juanita Ward, presented by Chick-fil-A Cicero, the Top Dog of the Week, presented by K9 Camp Dog Daycare and K9 Kampground Dog Boarding, and, of course, our resident NBA analyst here, Mr. Dave Pasiak. So a big thanks to everybody that made this week possible, and thanks to Safe Travels and great partnerships and extremely awesome support by my beautiful, wonderful loved ones. So from my support system to my G-Mama, who's part of that up in heaven, to everybody in heaven that is part of my support system, and my loved ones, everybody here on earth, everyone I've yet to meet, and of course to all of my fantastic partners in the community and all of my guests on the show and all the segments we get to do. A big time thanks to literally everyone, including my mom and dad for being awesome parents, and for my little Lily for being a good girl for Grandpa and good for Grandma as well. And so big thanks to everyone. Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, Pizza Man, Honda City of Liverpool, the Millhouse Market, K9 Camp Dog Daycare, Avicoli's, K9 Kampground Dog Boarding, PB&J's Lunchbox, and Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. Use the promo code DT20 for 20% off every single day, all throughout the entire United States. Any one of the 50 states can order by going to maandpaspopcorn.com and using the promo code DT20 to get 20% off. Find us on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT and Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT, as well as YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.com every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time to listen and watch the show live. And, of course, you can catch us in the archives after that on Podbean, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, MixLR, YouTube, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or by searching one word, Wake Up Call DT. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call_DT. In the meantime, for Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, we'll catch you next week. I send you my love, I send you my prayers, and as always, I send you all the positivity coming from my G-Mama and all the beautiful people that make my life so special, and the beautiful animals, Mordu and Cinnamon and Shady, and of course my little Lillian. So, God bless, no stress, do your best. I'll talk with you soon. Be good.